I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show we have Kelsey McGuire, the Chief Growth Officer of Shardeum. Kelsey, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Ashton. Really great to be on.
You're very welcome. I'm personally very excited to dive into more Layer 1 technologies, the growth of blockchain, some huge announcements from your team that just happened, and we're going to dive into everything Layer 1s. But before we start that, I want to hear a little bit on your background, what led you to get into blockchain and leading into the Chief Growth Officer of Shardeum.
Absolutely. So my Web3 journey began many years ago at this point. It feels like 20, but I think it's been about 5, at Consensus, the organization that I'm sure pretty much everyone has heard of at this point that's focused on Ethereum. I was previously doing a little consulting and working actually in the fashion industry off and on, and learned a little bit more about blockchain technology, and was fortunate enough to cross paths with someone that told me about Consensus. After giving myself something of a crash course back then and exploring a little bit more about the technology, I was able to join their team, working with community strategy, eventually experiential marketing. From there, I worked on partner marketing and strategic partnerships at Cello before eventually joining Web3 crypto investment firm CoinFund as their CMO a couple years ago at this point. And I recently joined Shardeum, and it's been fantastic so far.
Amazing. That's a great breadth of experience in blockchain in a short amount of time, but it feels like forever in blockchain because there's so much stuff happening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a whirlwind, isn't it?
Definitely. And it's great to see, that Shardeum is standing strong and continuing to grow in all types of market conditions. And I feel like they're gearing up for something big when the cryptocurrency market gets back. I'm sure it will get even more attention in the near months and years. Let's just talk from a high level on what exactly is the Shardeum network, and then we'll dive into all those details.
Sounds great. So Shardeum is a highly scalable EVM-based layer 1 blockchain. So we deploy dynamic state sharding to enable low gas fees while maintaining true decentralization and security. I know that's kind of a mouthful. It means that transactions can happen quickly, and we're focused on maintaining low fees forever. We realize that most blockchains today promote high scalability are making sacrifices on their level of decentralization. So at Shardeum, we believe that there is a huge opportunity to build a solution that aligns scalability with decentralization at that layer 1 level. So the faster the blockchain becomes, the more decentralized it is.
That's great to hear, because for some I've heard of different blockchains that are able to increase decentralization as it becomes more scalable, but there's always been this discussion around the blockchain trilemma of balancing decentralization, security, and scalability. And from what we've seen in traditional models, the reason that some of the traditional payment providers, for example, Visa and MasterCard, are able to be so scalable and very fast is because they're the only ones doing it. And when they had to spread out and become more decentralized, it becomes slower. So maybe you can touch a little bit more on that, concept of decentralization and the misconceptions that people have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think kind of the first important thing to dig into a little bit more is that dynamic state sharding piece that I mentioned. That means that consensus happens at the transaction level, which allows Shardeum to lower the computational power needed for validator nodes. That makes it possible for anyone to run a node, and thus increases decentralization, which is, of course, a really important part of all of this. I think that another really kind of big point about decentralization is that sometimes we only focus on the tech side of that. And really, ultimately, Web3 is built by people for people. So unless we're really focused on a broad range of geographies and different socioeconomic standings of individuals, I don't think we can ever really truly be decentralized. So it's kind of the two-pronged piece that I think we need to really focus on, both the human side of decentralization as well as the tech side.
Definitely good to focus on the human side, and getting people to be able to get involved from the get-go, I feel like is very important, because as we've seen with the growth of blockchain networks like Bitcoin and Ethereum, it used to be back in the beginning that Bitcoin was so decentralized anybody could run a full node on on a computer, on a USB stick. It was very easy. Now there's giant warehouses that are competing, with multi-billion-dollar companies that have thousands of graphics cards, and it's hard to compete or even get started. And it's a daunting task to be like, yeah, I'm going to start getting involved in this decentralized network. So I'm glad to hear that Shardeum is a little bit easier. I'm curious if you have more information on how that decentralized nature just allows people to get involved very easily in helping support the network and getting involved.
Absolutely. A really, really big part of that are our proof of community events that happen around the world. We recently even spun some up in Vietnam. They happen all across India. We kick some off here in the United States. We'll be at ETHCC next week, also really engaging with the community, because what we've found is those sort of really human-driven interactions and education moments that can kind of sort of spark that level of engagement and decentralization that we're looking for to really get people involved, and making sure that on the technical side, folks can use the equipment that they already have to spin up a node, to engage with the technology, and don't need to invest or be a part of a group that has a giant warehouse or, spending thousands and thousands of dollars to, be a part of the Web3 community in like a deeper way. That shouldn't be the barrier to entry in our mind.
Definitely. And I like to remind myself when we look at these huge companies that companies are really just a group of people. And blockchains with decentralized networks are also just, groups of people that are helping for a common cause. So I feel like that the people factor is very important. And when there's so much, technical stuff on the backside of blockchains, you can get lost in that this is really just people coming together for a common cause.
Exactly. I completely agree. And I think we're seeing that a lot across the world at these different community events, is that individuals do want to come together and they're excited to engage. It's just really providing some clarity and structure and that welcoming atmosphere around how to just start their Web3 journey, really. Because it can be daunting at times. It can be difficult to sort of break into some of the online communities. It can be difficult to navigate your way around a giant conference. So having us as a Web3 community just be aware and welcoming, I think will be a really big kind of boon to that greater Web3 adoption.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Kelsey. And now, looking at the greater blockchain ecosystem, there's still a lot of room for growth, of course. And despite the market conditions, we're seeing the ecosystems continue to grow out. With the growth of smart contracting platforms, with Ethereum, Shardeum, all of these other layer 2s and different layer 1s that are growing out. And no one really knows exactly, how it's going to go, how it's going to end up in the future. Will there be one chain to rule them all? Will all of the chains work synonymously and connect together, or will there be a select few? I'm curious if you have any perspective looking, at the greater blockchain ecosystem moving forward on that, or anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always kind of laugh or smile when I hear the one chain to rule them all, because I love a good Lord of the Rings reference too. But I do think that will be probably a few different chains that are serving a variety of specific purposes for audiences. And those would be composed of all of the best features of sort of the L1s that are currently involved in this, what I see almost as like a massive L1 race. So each one has unique and interesting things about it, but I do think it will be this sort of almost conglomerate of the existing ones that ends up serving the best purpose down the line. So I definitely see a lot more of that in the future for us and in Web3, but I also see a lot of more of a shift towards focus on usability, the overall experience of interacting with Web3 technology. And I've seen a lot of progress in that. I think we still have a ways to go across the board with especially your average consumer trying to engage with the technology. It can be a little intimidating, but I've seen a lot of progress, especially I feel like in the gaming space, where games are now geared towards fun and experience in Web3 as opposed to just a transaction. I think this shift from play to earn to play and earn is really key and is indicative of a much larger positive trend in Web3.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I love that you are focused on usability. It goes back to the human perspective. It's great to have a blockchain and a layer one that's super scalable, but if there's no apps that are usable or if there's no games to play on the network, then what good is a scalable blockchain that has no apps running on it, or apps that are so technical that your everyday person isn't able to find out how to actually use them. I'm curious on the approach of your network, and is Shardeum lowering the barriers to entry for app development and user engagement to actually get people using and transacting on the network?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of it, you'll hear a common theme here, which is community. So those community events are places where we are actively educating, onboarding, making people sure people have the really key support system, so that even as we're improving usability over the months and quarters, we're able to still retain folks and have them engaging in the meantime without sort of feeling that kind of level of frustration and sort of falling off. So that's been a really, really key part for us, as well as we have a great team over here. And we're always working with the different founders that are a part of the Shardeum ecosystem to really help with resourcing, marketing and comms, understanding like what strategic partnerships we can also facilitate, which helps them sort of bring their networks in and build this larger community together.
Mm-hmm. And with regards to different use cases and applications, I'm sure there are many possibilities for what is able to be built and used on Shardeum. But does the ecosystem have any specific focuses, at least more in the short term, in terms of dApp developments? Is it DeFi, NFTs, gaming, other kinds of real world use cases?
Absolutely. I feel like when I've had this conversation with other folks from L1s, we're all so nervous about getting pigeonholed into one specific vertical. But I do think that even though we are working with projects across all of those different verticals and actively like partnering with founders and bringing them in, I am particularly excited about the gaming space, just because like we talked about earlier, it's such a great on-ramp, I think, to the world of Web3. And it's such a unique interactive way to build trust and relationships with folks that are already in the Web3 community and that are just dipping their toes in the water as well. So we're really looking at ramping up some of those efforts over the next quarter too.
Amazing. And the gaming industry is, it's such a wide variety of people that are even in more so in the recent years as well, going from casual gaming to hardcore gaming, from young kids to elderly people. Everyone's really playing games, and that part that you mentioned about integrating the transactions into it, but not having that as a focus, it's great to be able to transact and actually be earning money while you're playing a game, but that shouldn't be the focus. It shouldn't turn into a job. So I feel like the size of the gaming industry is much bigger, the market capitalization, than blockchain as a whole. And when this technology successfully merges in, really nicely and not, in a clunky way where we're all focused on the transactions per second, we're just like, hey, we can play this game and yeah, we're earning, or we're able to monetize by the in-game assets and transfer them out to a different game or sell them or buy them easily. I feel like that's when we could see explosive growth in the Web3 sector.
I completely agree. It's like kind of going after that feeling of fun and joy. I mean, when I think about way back when I first got my first Game Boy Color with Pokemon Red, I believe it was, and just that feeling of engagement and joy, and you remember that and you spend a lot of time with it, and it didn't really matter how that specific technology worked. And I think it's going to be similar, with Web3 gaming. It's going to be this underlying piece that allows us to do a lot of interesting things and be a part of a really fantastic community. But when it comes down to it, you're just building that like affinity and joy within the community. And that's really what will kind of spark that growth, just like you were saying.
And speaking of sparking growth for growing the communities, I recently saw online that Shardeum just closed a new round of fundraising for over $5 million with a bunch of major partners. That sounds like huge news, especially in the current market conditions. Bitcoin's not skyrocketing upwards; it's sort of in a sideways motion. People are wondering what's going to happen next. It looks like some of these long-term partners, venture capitalists, and these funds are still very interested in investing in layer ones. So congratulations to that. I would love to hear more information on that raise and the partners and the steps moving forward from that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we are absolutely thrilled with the raise. Came in at 5.4 million, I believe. And especially during these market conditions, it really shows that the investors and partners are extremely confident in us and what we're doing. They see our, I think it's now 500,000 person Discord community that's still growing, and they see the potential of Shardeum and really what we're trying to do on both like the technical side as well as the human side. We had angels like contribute like Crypto Viet, and we're spinning up actively, proof of community events with them in Vietnam now. We were really focused on bringing in that kind of strategic value with this round as well. So all of our partners are contributing in really interesting and unique ways as they deepen our relationship with us beyond just the capital.
That's amazing to hear. And I have visited some of the developer communities in Vietnam, and they're pretty hardcore about the future of blockchain. So that's great to hear that you're also involved in that part of the world.
That's fantastic. I love that you've been out there. Did you feel like the community was even more engaged in some of the other geographies you've visited, or was there anything else that was specifically unique that you found?
Well, definitely the gaming sector, as you've mentioned, aligned very well in the Southeast Asian region and Vietnam. And, I even saw some of the major companies, Google's very involved in the blockchain and developer ecosystem in Vietnam. And they're very focused on building for the future. So, I think, that area of the world is sort of paving the way for North America to also stay involved very deeply, because I feel like, it's sort of like as these L1 races are happening, the parts of the world need to stay on top of having talent as well to stay involved in the newest innovations in technology.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is just maintaining that large global perspective. It's like I mentioned with Crypto Viet and the community over there are some of our other contributors to this round were like Amber Group, Galaxy, J17, and it's quite the global bunch. So I feel like global contributors make for better strategic value in terms of resourcing, connections, and partnerships. So that's something that we're really, really excited about with this strategic round.
Amazing. Well, congratulations. And with that round closed, what are some of the next steps that Shardeum is going to take with that capital in expanding and growing in different directions?
Yes. So we're really excited to start growing in some new geographies. Like I mentioned, we have those incredible, network of global contributors. I'm here based in the US, so we are spinning up some of our community events out here. We are having side events and educational moments alongside some of those larger conferences. We're looking at some key hires, both on the people side and the technical side of the business. So there's a lot that we're going to be doing this next year, especially as we head towards mainnet at the end of the year, which is the next massive milestone for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And what are some of the major things that need to get done to get to that mainnet launching successfully?
Absolutely. Aside from really focusing in on the technical side and making sure that we have every single feature complete that we were aiming for on my side with the amazing growth team that I'm working with, is really doubling down on those education and community efforts and structuring out some really unique campaigns around our brand and our core value props. So that way, when you think about Shardeum, you understand exactly not only who we are and what we do, but how to easily get involved and be a part of the community.
Mm-hmm. And if there's people that want to follow along online or look for these in-person community events as well, what is the best way for them to start getting involved?
Yes, so please check us out, our website, as well as Twitter. If you look up at Shardeum on there, that will be the easiest way. We have many different channels, but I would say that our website right now is the best best avenue. We have a great newsletter that you can sign up for there, and it will be, probably the easiest avenue to reach out. That's Shardeum.org. I don't know if I said that earlier. I'm also, depending on how comfortable the audience is with different channels, for folks that are exploring, like getting into Web3 growth and marketing, I'm on LinkedIn. I feel like LinkedIn can be a little underrated. You can send me a message. I'm happy to hear from you personally as well, because I'm really for bringing more folks into the space. And it can be really hard to get your toe in the door when you're thinking about a career in Web3 marketing, community building, and growth.
I completely agree. And thank you for that, Kelsey. And I will leave the Twitter and the Shardeum.org links in the description, but I'll also leave your personal connection to LinkedIn. And if people want to reach out directly, as we've been having as one of the focuses of this discussion, is it's just a group of people that are looking to get together and build.
Yeah.
So, that human connection is important, and I appreciate you offering that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great being able to have the opportunity to talk through some of what Shardeum's all about.
Yeah, thank you so much. All the best moving forward on all these initiatives, and looking forward towards a successful mainnet launch. I'd love to have you and your team back prior to the mainnet launch happening to hear about more of the updates and to see what's next in store. But until then, let's follow up in the near future.
We'd love that. Thanks so much, Ashton. Speak with you again soon.